Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Sound Bites. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer. Thrilled to be here with you again this week because we get to talk about all the things that I love. Visibility strategy. We talk about public relations, advertising, marketing, networking, all the strategies you need to grow your business and have a strong visibility strategy. And of course, we know how important copy is to that. And we have a phenomenal guest that's really going to bring that together for us because emails and all the landing pages and all the content that you create really has to speak to your audience. And so we want to make sure that you are on target as you are connecting with your audience. So we'll go ahead and get started. But before we do that, let's take care of some housekeeping. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Sound Bites. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and my guest and I will be sure to connect with you, answer any questions you might have, and be sure to put in hashtag replay if you're catching us at another time, because we want to make sure that we stay connected with you as well. So we'll go ahead and get started with this episode. I have a phenomenal guest joining us. Please welcome Yuval Ackerman. She's joining us and she's a fantastic email strategist. Welcome, Yuval.
Hi, Veronica. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about today's topic because, first of all, copy is key to success when you are trying to connect with people, connect with your target audience. And before we start sharing all of your juicy nuggets that you have for folks, tell us a little bit about yourself and how does one become an email strategist?
Thank you so much for this question. I think I need to dial back to the time back when I was 17. That was my first, I would say, big break. And I was a journalist in the army. I was born and raised in Israel. When you finish high school, you join the army. That's the rules. That's the laws. And I joined the army at 17, fresh out of high school, went to become a journalist in the IDF's national radio station. We're talking about a massive reach of about 50% of the population each and every hour.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a lot of responsibility. And I joined there because I'm a storyteller through and through. I was born a storyteller, will probably die a storyteller. And ever since, I was a child, it was just me trying to figure out, how do I tell stories in the best way possible to benefit other people? Because that's what we do, as storytellers. And I've done that for 3 years because that was the period that I was supposed to do. And when I basically finished that time of my life, I realized two things. I'll be a storyteller forever.
Yep.
Second thing, I don't want to be a journalist anymore, ever. And then I just took a writing hiatus for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time for a storyteller to not be actually telling stories actively and publicly. And in between, I've made a few changes in my life. I moved to Berlin, where I'm basically at ever since. And I studied sound engineering. So that's another part of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm also a musician. On top of everything else, I basically turned my life around, and then I finished my bachelor in sound engineering, and I realized I do want to tell stories. How do I do that? It took me a bit of time to actually take the first step. I opened my business about 3 years ago, almost, as a content writer, because I thought, this is how I can tell stories, right? That sounded the most, reasonable and logical to me back then. But then after getting my first couple of clients, they kind of nudged me in the direction of copywriting, generally speaking, because they needed scripts for videos and websites and landing pages and emails as well. And that's when I kind of felt like, it's going to sound a bit woo, but I felt like the world was nudging me in that direction. And I'm the kind of person who sees the signs and I'm listening. I'm not going it. And I saw more and more email copywriters on social media, and I thought, oh, these are really wonderful people. I want to be a part of that bunch. And slowly but surely, I got into email copywriting specifically. But back then, I also realized that all of this trauma that I was carrying with me from my journalism days is basically erupting without me having any control over it.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that with therapy, loads of therapy, of course, that I needed to do things with the right people, for the right people, with integrity. And that's when I basically decided that if I'm doing business in any kind of way, it has to be ethical. And that's where when I landed on being an ethical email strategist and a copywriter as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that your passion is about telling stories in an ethical way without being sleazy. We talked about how important it is to be able to communicate with your target audience. And obviously, if you're in business, you're trying to make a sale. But our topic today is how to sell more and better with your emails without being sleazy, because we do want to connect with people in an authentic way that resonates with who we are and what our business is about. And so I love that you combine those two to launch your business. So tell us a little bit, how long have you been doing this and what kind of clients do you work with?
Sure. So, in one way or another, I've been doing that for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
But then again, as a storyteller, I've been doing that my entire life. And
Right.
it's almost a process of fine tuning it every single day. And I'm working with both personal brands and e-com
Okay.
brands as well,
Mhm.
because I feel like those two have the biggest need in bettering their email marketing.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. So let's focus on personal brand, because a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs on the online space, and I want to make sure that they get some really good content. First of all, what are two mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making in their email strategy, and particularly the way they're trying to sell?
Hmm. I refer to email marketing as a conversation and as a dialogue.
Mhm.
So, two of the most common mistakes that I'm seeing out there, and there are a bunch of them, but let me just focus on two.
Right.
One of them is basically treating email marketing as what most people think is email marketing, which is blast your email list or your subscribers as soon as you have a new thing to sell.
Okay.
And in between, ghost them. And
Yes.
I just think
Yes.
this is a recipe for a disaster. Because if you're
Mhm.
only telling your subscribers, your people, hey, buy from me, and if you don't nurture the relationship in between sales, then the probability, I would say, of selling to your list like that is very, very low. So that's one. The
Gotcha. That's a great
second
one. I love that.
yeah, because it's a conversation and it's a relationship. It's like, I always like to compare it to a neighbor that never says hello to you in the
Right.
staircase, but
Yeah.
then all of a sudden when they need a cup of sugar, I don't know, your Wi-Fi password because theirs just crashed, it's like,
Yeah.
who are you again?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from me? Like, I don't even
Yeah.
know who you are.
It's a
So
great analogy.
that's the same kind of relationship that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And the
Right.
second thing that I'm seeing again and again with personal brands is the fact that the welcome or onboarding experience, I'm not only talking about the welcome sequence, which is something that we do as email marketers. Um, the whole experience, the user experience, is not optimized. So, for example, in a lot of websites, I'm seeing, okay, just join my list, drop your email. You're missing so many opportunities there. I mean,
Mhm.
you don't use the first name, you don't use the last name, you don't use any long-term strategy on your sign-up form. You don't use your success message to set the tone or manage expectations. You
Mhm.
don't send an email right away saying what to expect from my being a part of my email list.
Mhm.
So when you're not setting the tone, when you're not setting the expectations, when your onboarding experience is subpar, then of course that your deliverability or your whole user experience is going to be less than ideal. And
Mhm.
that's so easy to fix.
So easy to fix. Yeah. Especially with, the tools that we have available to us through automation. So easy to fix. Where do you think we're missing the boat when it comes to like automation? You talked about an onboarding, and you talked about nurturing, and the blank time in between you have offers. Where do you think there are other missed opportunities for us?
Hmm. I think anytime you don't want to have a conversation, even one-on-one conversations with your list, you're missing an opportunity.
Mhm.
Um, I always talk about four different hierarchies to email marketing. or in terms of what's the hardest thing for your subscriber to do.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest, I'll start with the easiest. The
Yeah, what's
easiest
the
is to,
easiest? I want
the
that one.
easiest thing for your subscriber is to open an email from you and read an email, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The second easiest is to actually click on something, then followed by replying and buying something from you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not doing the sales on the actual email. This is a gateway to a landing page or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're not speaking with your subscribers one on one, asking them to replying back, having this whole conversation, I think that's a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, and I do that myself as well with my own list, set a time once a month, invite subscribers to talk with you, give you feedback, um, understand what's working, what's not working, what would they like to see more from you, what would they like to see less from you.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what is it for them to be on your list, why are they still there.
Mm-hmm.
So nurture those conversations and take them out of the inbox into the real world as well, and continue being curious and learning about your subscribers, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really great advice. I love that. And so give me a couple of tips that people need to be thinking about. Say you've got a small email list, because some of our entrepreneurs are just starting out and they maybe just have a couple hundred email addresses. What do you need to be doing as soon as you've got those first couple of hundred email addresses?
First of all, besides setting the tone and having a great onboarding experience, you need to be consistent with. I'm not saying consistent with the number of emails that you send every week. Not necessarily. I always say that the consistency that you need to care about the most is the consistency of the value that you provide to your
Uh,
email.
yes.
So, to your email list, to your subscribers. So, you can also send one email a month, as long as you're actually saying to your subscribers, hey, I'm going to only email you once a month. And in that once a month, you're going to send such an amazing email that everyone would have every reason to just stay on your list. So you can also send 3 emails a week,
Mm-hmm.
if you can, if you want to. But each and every one of those emails has to be packed with value.
Right. Right.
That's the only
And
consistency I'd be worried about.
well, and I'm glad you said that, because we want to give people some tips and strategies that are going to support them without being sleazy. But sometimes when I get email addresses or emails that I've subscribed to, and they're just so either, like you said, inconsistent, or they're too often. I get maybe 4 or 5 a week, and I'm barely either opening them, and if I do, I'm certainly not reading them, and then I feel kind of like eh. And I, for whatever reason, I've just started unsubscribing to a lot of people, but for a while I didn't. I don't know if I had like an emotional attachment to unsubscribing to them, but I got to the point where I was like, enough is enough. I'm done. I'm going to unsubscribe from this content.
Yeah,
So,
and but I want to point out, it's not how many emails you send, it's how much value you provide in each and every one of those emails.
mhm, mhm,
Because I am on lists where I'm happy to receive an email once a day,
mhm,
because it's so good, and it's so valuable to me.
mhm.
And I'm a tough critic. Like, I'm the
Yeah.
toughest out there. So it's not how many emails you send, it's how much you make out of it, how
Mhm,
much you give to your subscribers every time that you send them an email.
mhm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's one in particular that I get daily, and they're just daily affirmations, and I love getting it every morning. And there's very little, if any, that I can think of sales pitch. Maybe once a month I'll get something, but I do enjoy those daily affirmations. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I changed my position on that. There are a couple that I do enjoy getting. So Yuval, let me ask you this. How do you get your email sequence to a place where you are ready for the sale? You're ready to ask for the sale. You've used the term nurturing a couple of times, and we've talked about um, the email sequences, but how do you know when you're ready to ask for the sale? Because I think sometimes our entrepreneurs either pull the trigger too quickly, or they wait too long and they've missed the opportunity. So I'm assuming there's a sweet spot and you know what it is.
Mm. So I'm going to say a couple of things that will contradict one another, actually.
Okay.
So the first thing that I'm going to say is that the studies suggest that you would send a sales email every 4 to 5 other emails, nurturing emails. I also want to emphasize the fact that every email is a sales email. And you don't have to do any hard sell in any of your emails and still have amazing results. Every email that I'm sending, every email that I'm writing for my clients is a sales email.
Mm.
It's not even necessarily selling a product or a service. It's selling the person and it's selling the business. And selling is nothing but suggesting some help and some solution to your audience. So, in a sense, I feel like, yet again, every email is a sales email. Make the most out of it and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're not hard selling, because I think that 90 something percent of the people out there don't appreciate hard selling anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But simply suggest that, just show the solution. So show your product or your service as an option, and people will be ready when they're ready. And you need to be consistent with your value, with your emails.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're ready, they'll just come to you because
Mm-hmm.
you'll be top of mind, because you nurtured that relationship, and because they'll be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So just use every opportunity, every email, and make the most out of it.
Yeah. No, that's really great advice. And I always wondered if there was a formula or that an industry standard, if you will. And if so, does that apply to everybody, or is there some niche markets that there's more flexibility with?
One of my business mantras is it depends, because I simply don't know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what your audience is like, and I can only say what I think my audience is like,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
keep researching that. Same thing goes or applies to my clients. I keep learning about their audiences, to know what best suits their subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's never like a one size fits all cookie cutter answer, because it really depends.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's absolutely true. And I know that, before COVID, we had one way of doing business, and then COVID came and we had to pivot and redesign all of our communications. And then here we are coming out of it, where the world is just a little bit different than what it was a few years ago. So I think you're right on target there.
Yeah, we just have to experiment, because marketing is not rocket science. It's not precise. Everything
Hmm.
could happen while we're having fun, but we have to plan in advance, of course, but we have to leave some wiggle room to experiment and try and have fun with it.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really great advice. Okay, Yuval, how can people work with you? What programs do you currently have going, and what's the best way to connect? Because all your content has been so rich, and I loved all the tips, and it's exactly what our audience is looking for in terms of figuring out how to sell more, how to be more ethical, and how to really connect with folks.
Sure. So right now I have only 3 offers. I You can actually subscribe to my email list and see what it's like to actually have an amazing onboarding experience. That's my token of appreciation to you joining my list at ackermancopywriting.com/subscribe. That's how you join. In terms of my services, I can either offer a copy audit where I can just see where things not clicking, pun very much intended. I also have a retainer offer that is a quarterly offer for business owners who would like to delegate their email copywriting and strategy to someone who cares about it as much as they do. And I'm about to launch a new copy coaching course or membership for business owners who would like to write their own emails, stay consistent, but still write it themselves with a bit of, professional direction. So that's Email Muscles. I'm going to share all about it in my email list. So make sure to actually join.
That's fantastic. I love it so much. I love all the good content. I love how you put words together to really help people make connections with their audience. And now, Yuval, I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a blast.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Saturday Sound Bites. As always, I'm excited to connect with you. So you can reach out to me at veronicavsofer.com. Make sure you hit subscribe on the podcast. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Sound Bites. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop Yuval and I some comments so that we can connect with you and be sure to give you all the content you are looking for. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode by sending you lots of positive energy and light.